Do you recollect, Mrs. Cluppings? Do you recollect being in Mrs. Bardell's back one pair of stairs on one particular morning in July last, when she was dusting Pickwick's apartment?
Yes, my lord and jury, I do,
replied Mrs. Cluppings. Mr. Pickwick's sitting room was the first floor front, I believe?
Yes, it was, sir.
What were you doing in the back room, man?
My lord and jury, I will not deceive you.
You had better not, ma'am.
I was there, unbeknown to Mrs. Bardell. I'd been out with a little basket, gentlemen, to buy £3 red kidney pataties, which were £3 halfpenny, when I see Mrs. Bardell's street door on the jar.
On the what? Partly open, my lord.
She said on the jar.
It's all the same, my lord. The little judge looked doubtful and said he'd make a note of it.
I walked in, gentlemen, just to say good morning, and went, in a promiscuous manner, upstairs and into the back room. Gentlemen, there was a sound of voices in the front room, and...
And you listened, I believe, Mrs. Cluppings.
Begging your pardon, sir, I would scorn that action. The voices was very loud, sir, and forced themselves on my ear.
Very well, Mrs. Cluppings, you were not listening, but you heard the voices. Was one of those voices Pickwick's?
Yes, it was, sir.
Mrs. Cluppings, having once broken the ice, thought it a favourable opportunity for entering into a short dissertation on her own domestic affairs, so she straightway proceeded to inform the court that she was the mother of 8 children, at present speaking. At this interesting moment, the little judge interposed most irascibly, and the worthy lady was taken out of court.
Nathaniel Winkle,
said Mr. Skimpy, the enthusiastic junior of Sergeant Buzzfuzz.
Here!
Mr. Winkle entered the witness box and, having been duly sworn, bowed to the judge, who acknowledged the compliment by saying,
Don't look at me, sir! Look at the jury!
Mr. Winkle obeyed the mandate and looked at the place where he thought the jury might be, for seeing anything in his then state of intellectual complication was wholly out of the question. Mr. Winkle was then examined by Mr. Skimpy, who was anxious to confuse a witness notoriously predisposed in favour of the other side as much as he could.
Now, sir, have the goodness to let his lordship and his jury know what your name is, will you?
Mr. Skimpy inclined his head on one side and listened with great sharpness for the answer, as if he rather thought that Mr. Winkle's natural taste for perjury would induce him to give some name which did not belong to him.
Winkle,
have you a Christian name, sir?
Nathaniel, sir.
Daniel, any other name?
Nathaniel, sir. My lord, I mean.
Nathaniel Daniel, or Daniel Nathaniel?
No, my lord, only Nathaniel, not Daniel at all.
What did you tell me your name was Daniel for then, sir?
I didn't, my lord.
Yes, you did, sir. How could I have got Daniel on my notes unless you told me so, sir?
Mr. Winkle has rather short memory, my lord. We shall find means to refresh it before we have quite done with him, I dare say. Now, Mr. Winkle, attend to me, if you please, sir, and let me recommend you be careful. I believe you're a particular friend of Mr. Pickwick, the defendant, are you not? I have known Mr. Pickwick now, as well as I can recollect at this moment, nearly... Pray, Mr. Winkle, do not evade the question. Are you, or are you not, a particular friend of the defendant? I was just about to say that...
Will you or will you not answer my question, sir?
If you don't answer the question, you'll be committed, sir. Yes, I am. Yes, you are. And why couldn't you say that at once, sir? Perhaps you know the plaintiff too, eh, Mr. Winkle? I
I don't know her, but I've seen her.
Oh, you don't know her, but you've seen her. Now, have the goodness to tell the jury what you mean by that, Mr. Winkle.
I mean, that I'm not intimate with her, but I have seen her when I went to call on Mr. Pickwick in Goswell Street.
Pray, Mr. Winkle, do you remember calling on the defendant Pickwick at these apartments in the plaintiff's house in Goswell Street on one particular morning in the month of July last?
Yes, I do.
Were you accompanied on that occasion by a friend of the name of Tupman and another of the name of Snodgrass?
Yes, I was.
Are they here?
Yes, they are, replied Mr. Winkle, looking very earnestly towards the spot where his friends were stationed.
Pray attend to me, Mr. Winkle, and never mind your friends,
said Mr. Skimpin, with another expressive look at the jury.
They must tell their stories without any previous consultation with you, if none has yet taken place. Now, sir, tell the gentlemen of the jury what you saw on entering the defendant's room on this particular morning.
The defendant, Mr. Pickwick, was holding the plaintiff in his arms, with his hands clasping her waist, and the plaintiff appeared to have fainted away.
Did you hear the defendant say anything?
I heard him call Mrs. Bardell a good creature, and I heard him ask her to compose herself, for what a situation it was, if anybody should come, or words to that effect.
Now, Mr. Winkle, I've only one more question to ask you. Will you undertake to swear that Pickwick, the defendant, did not say on the occasion in question, "My dear Mrs. Bardell, you're a good creature, compose yourself into this situation, but in this situation you must come," or words to that effect?
I didn't understand him so, certainly, said Mr. Winkle, astounded at this ingenious dovetailing of a few words he had heard. I was on the staircase and couldn't hear distinctly. The impression on my mind is...
You gentlemen of the jury want none of the impressions on your mind, Mr. Winkle, which I fear will be of little service to honest, straightforward men. You may leave the box, sir.
Mr. Winkle did leave the box, and rushed with delirious haste to the George and Vulture, where he was discovered some hours after by the waiter, groaning in a hollow and dismal manner, with his head buried beneath the sofa cushions. Sergeant Bosworth now arose, with more importance than he had yet exhibited, if that were possible, and vociferated, "Call Samuel Weller!" It was quite unnecessary to call Samuel Weller, for Samuel Weller stepped briskly into the box the instant his name was pronounced, and, putting his hat on his head and his arms on the rail, took a bird's-eye view of the bar and a comprehensive survey of the bench with a remarkably cheerful and lively aspect.
"What's your name, sir?"
"Sam Weller, my lord."
"Do you spell it with a V or a W?"
"That depends upon the taste and fancy of the speller, my lord. I haven't had occasion to spell it more than once or twice in my life, but I spells it with a W."